Hey, Dr. Baird, how are you? Good. Yeah, just wanted to come back in. I appreciate you taking the time at the end of your day. Wanted to really take a deeper dive on Morpheus with you for 15 or 20 minutes. I kind of want to walk through how and why it's different than all of the competitors, and show you some illustrations as well that Dr. Pruitt and Dr. Rajan found very, very useful prior to adding this technology and partnering with us. They've been thrilled with it, and I think you will be too after we kind of discuss all the value this can add to your practice. And then at the very end, I'd love to go over some of the ROI and the financial impact that this will have for your bottom line. So, the big thing with Morpheus, to really understand this technology well, we've actually got to take a look at the predecessor, which was called Fractora. So Fractora has been used for years and years and years. It's gold standard RF needling technology by InMode, of course. The proprietary patent, which we hold across all our devices, is for bipolar radio frequency. It's a 17-year design utility patent, which is very important because it expires in 2028, and it doesn't allow for any company to really, do what we do. So you're safeguarded in that sense, and it's totally different than anything else that anyone can offer. So, Fractora was used, again, for years and years by many of the best and brightest dermatologists like yourself. Dr. Hellman, Dr. Battle, Dr. Avram, all very, very good examples of people that used that technology and really loved it. Now, there were some shortcomings, just like with any technology. And that's really what we tried to shore up when we came out with Morpheus8. So we had consultants, we had feedback from physicians, we had feedback from patients. And really the three shortcomings or the three areas that we could improve upon with Fractora was, one, it was a little bit painful. Two, it was clunky, so it wasn't as user-friendly. It certainly wasn't automated, and you actually had to push the needles down into the skin, which, depending on who the user is and how well trained they are, you might get, different results. So, those two things we definitely wanted to shore up. And then the last thing is we actually wanted to be able to go deeper and treat into the subcutaneous fat with Morpheus. So, I'm very, very proud to say that Morpheus, it's by far the most successful product launch that InMode has ever had. And I think those three shortcomings, we were able to correct them very expeditiously. And that's why so many clinics and med spas are having amazing results. Patients are extremely happy. And I'll kind of go into how and why that is. So if you remember, I showed you this tip the other day, and I have it again. So the important thing to remember with Morpheus is it's a stainless steel needle. It's actually gold coated, and then it uses polymer as an insulator. So the reason why that's important, if you're using our standard tip, which goes 1 millimeter all the way down to 4 millimeters with an additional millimeter of heat profile. So if you're treating at 4 millimeters, you're actually getting heat down to 5 millimeters. The reason why that is important is we want to be able to spare the epidermis. As you know, RF is colorblind. So if we're able to actually spare that epidermis, we can treat skin types 4, 5, 6. Really the whole spectrum of any patient is going to be a candidate for this because we have that coated needle. So just wanted to point that out. That's a very common question that I get. We also do have a different tip for you. It looks exactly like this, but it's actually uncoated, and it goes 0.5 millimeters or 500 microns. That's going to be for resurfacing since it's uncoated. So lighter skin types, you can use that in conjunction with the regular tip as kind of an add-on for a really outstanding result. Most people are using it for acne and acne scarring. So, how does this work? It's very, very simple. The beauty of Morpheus is it's very customizable. It's very tunable. You can set the energy from 5 kilojoules all the way up to 62 kilojoules. We've got several different modes, which can actually make it somewhat of a hybrid technology because we're able to have the needles go in, inject heat, and come back out. Or we can put it in a fixed mode where the needles stay underneath the skin and you can do as many pulses as you want, which is very, very interesting and allows, for many additional benefits that we'll get into a little bit later here. So the important part about the customization, this is so safe, and there's safety algorithms and mechanisms built into the machine that it's actually delegatable to anyone on your staff. So what do I mean by that? If someone doesn't have good horizontal contact here on the skin, you're actually going to hear kind of a buzz with the machine, and it's going to be called bad coupling. So that's just a safety measure we've put in place, which means that you don't have full contact, so the machine actually isn't going to fire any heat. That's a very, very important safety feature, and we pride ourselves on all of those things just because we want to offer the most safe treatments for your patients. So, you can use this, a PA, an NP, an RN, really anyone in your clinic that you feel safe, training and certifying. We actually take care of that process here in clinic. We'll send an RN, and you guys will do a very, very in-depth training on Morpheus, how and why it works, contraindications, indications, didactic training, and then you'll actually do a hands-on where you can treat several staff members, family, friends. You also get a quick reference guide with Morpheus, so you'll be able to see the exact settings in accordance to the skin type, and then the symptoms of what you're treating. That way, if anyone walks in the room, they can very quickly figure out, what settings they should be using. So, why does this work, and how is it different than everything else on the market? I think that's super important to go over. There's a lot of competition, and quite frankly, just like anything in this space, a lot of reps have overpromised and underdelivered on certain things. So I drew this out for Dr. Rajan and Dr. Pruitt when I got together with them. They both found it very beneficial. So I'd like to kind of just walk through that with you and show you why. So really we've got this spectrum. And I've already written out some of it, but here on the beginning of the spectrum, this is going to be kind of more of your spa side. So your medical spa side type RF microneedling. Think Secret, think Vivace, Infini, Genius. There's a ton of them out there. The big difference in why they fall on this side of the spectrum, they're only heating 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. So they are only coagulating, and the deepest that they can actually go, and I'll show you in another illustration here in a second, is about 3.5 millimeters. Now, does that work? Absolutely. We know you're going to get collagen. We know you're going to get elastin. It's going to be good for things like texture, tone, fine lines and wrinkles. All of those things are fantastic, and they have their place in a practice. But I'll get into why and how we're actually going deeper, we're getting hotter, and why that's important. So before I get to Morpheus, I want to go all the way to the other side of the spectrum here. There's really only one that's over here in the entire market. Is a product called Profound. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was launched well over 5 years ago. Hasn't really changed much, and there's probably only about 5 in DFW in 5 years, if that. So the reason why I want to talk about it, though, it works totally differently, and that's why it's on the other side of the spectrum. The needles actually go in at a 45-degree angle, and you're heating underneath the skin for 3 to 5 seconds. That's an extremely long time to have a heat and a thermal injury underneath the epidermis, and the machine is actually designed so the handpiece has a cooling plate on the skin to prevent a full thermal burn. And the reason why some people have added this, or some people liked this when it first came out, and what it was kind of touted as was a one treatment protocol. And that's absolutely true. They can get some pretty good results with one treatment in terms of skin tightening and fat reduction. I'm not here to argue that whatsoever. The issue is it's an extremely long procedure because you're having to tumesce that patient because you're heating for so long underneath the epidermis. So, it takes 1 to 2 hours. Typically, you need someone who's extremely experienced and can tumesce. And a lot of the before and afters are pretty brutal and barbaric. I'll show you some of those right here. It's a little bit crazy. So what we did is we sat down, we actually looked across the entire, competitive industry and space. We took the feedback from our consultants, from our customers. We wanted to make something that was right in the middle. And we certainly, in my opinion, cracked the code. And let me go over how and why Morpheus is different and falls kind of in that best of both worlds between these two options. So I'm just going to illustrate something for you here that I think is important. So what we have here with Morpheus, or let me start with these actually. So all of the other ones, the ones on the spa side here that we talked about, all of those pins are positive, negative, positive, negative. Very easy to understand. So the distal end of that needle, the energy is bouncing between each pin. So again, they only go as deep as 3.5 millimeters. That's as far as your thermal spread's gonna go. And they only go 60 to 70 degrees in terms of heat. So you're only going to coagulate. Again, will it have good results for some things? Will it be multiple treatments to achieve great results? Absolutely. So this has, its place in some practices or some medical spas, definitely. But once people, see Morpheus and how it's different and really internalize and conceptualize that, it's really kind of a no-brainer in terms of what you're able to provide. So here's how ours is different. All of our pins are positively charged. And we have an outside rail surrounding all four sides. You can see it right there, where that energy is actually being displaced to. So this energy, when we fire our needles, is going out like this in a cascading manner. That's what allows you to get that additional millimeter of thermal spread or heat. Now, we talked about this being tunable and customizable. The other thing I need to point out for you to really understand why this is different is we're actually able to ablate. So not only can we coagulate between 60 and 80 degrees, if we put our machine on 25 kilojoules all the way up to 62, we're actually causing dermal ablation. And I know that you're very familiar with dermal ablation and how important that is for skin tightening and melting fat. So not only are we able to do that, but let's talk about all the indications that this can treat and really improve your patient's quality of life. So in addition to texture, tone, fine lines, and wrinkles, which anyone can do, we're actually able to treat active acne and hyperhidrosis. And you're probably scratching your head and thinking, how is that possible? I get the question all the time. It's pretty simple. So we know that if we go 3 millimeters down to the reticular dermis, that we're actually able to provide enough heat at certain settings to, one, shrink those sebaceous glands with heat and really stop their oil production, or we can actually shrink the sweat glands as well and cause significant reduction. And we've got studies on all of that. Dr. Hellman, who I'm sure you've heard her name or know of, she did a fantastic study, and it showed that with 2 treatments, we're actually able to get 9 to 12 months of reduction of over 80%. And I'm happy to send you that study, when we're through here, but we'll get into ROI a little bit, and I think you'll see why that's important. So the other things we can treat is cystic acne, acne scarring, PIH, and then laxity, and we're able to melt fat. So all in all, we're talking about 9 or 10 different revenue streams, 3 or 4 of which you're not going to be able to get with any other device, just because of the customization of ours. So let's go through ROI a little bit. I think that's super important. Clinics are having a lot of success with this, but I want you to kind of see what the numbers look like. So most of my clinics, they're going to sell this in packages of 3 treatments. Depending on the symptoms that we talked about, you're going to be able to charge anywhere from $1,500 to $4,500 for those packages of 3 treatments. Now, what you're going to notice, depending on the patient's physiology and what they're trying to achieve, some patients might get to their clinical endpoint after 1 treatment. So that's fantastic for you. You offer a discount for a package of 3, but if they get to their end result after 1 treatment or 2 treatments, they can just bank that. Because just like with anything in life, this is a maintenance treatment. They're getting physiological benefits for 12 to 18 months with anything that they're doing with this. But it's important to actually, set that expectation and make sure that the patient knows that this isn't the end-all be-all. They're going to get a fantastic result with minimal downtime, social downtime of about 2 to 4 days. So, downtime is super minimal. Most people, there's a little bit of redness, a little bit of erythema. That's totally normal. It typically dissipates in 1 to 2 hours, and no one's able to tell that they had anything done unless they really, really are looking, closely at them. So the other thing I'd like to point out, so really kind of, diving deeper into the ROI portion, hyperhidrosis, for example, you've got to do 100 units in each underarm. not only does that cost the patient a lot of money, it costs you a lot of money. The margins on Botox aren't great, and it's really kind of been one of the only solutions since no one wants to buy an $80,000 or $90,000 mirror dry machine that just does one thing. So if you use this for hyperhidrosis, we're recommending a 2-treatment package for $2,000. The tip for Morpheus is $75. Your margins are fantastic on that. So you're looking at about, $1,800 worth of profit versus $1,000 if you're able to do Botox. And the patient doesn't have to come back and see you every 3 to 4 months. We've got the study. I'll send it to you. But so yeah, that's really I've already gone over 15 minutes, but I wanted to just break that down on how we're different, why we're different, why it works, and what the ROI with this is. Really there's 3 check boxes that we need to check to make sure that a technology is going to be a home run for a clinic. And the first one is that it works. We know it works. We've got peer-reviewed studies. We've got hundreds of happy physicians, thousands of happy patients. Is it safe? Absolutely. There's algorithms, there's mechanisms built in. You can delegate this. We've got tons of evidence that it's absolutely safe. And then 3, is it going to be profitable? In a practice like yours, I have no doubt in my mind that this would be a total home run, just like it was for Dr. Pruitt, just like it was for Dr. Rajan. So, what I'd like to do, you're nodding your head along, you obviously are interested. Let's put together some numbers, some monthly payments, and then I can always come back. I've actually got some time after clinic tomorrow, and that way we can walk through the marketing, the support, the 30, 60, 90-day plan of how we can integrate and implement this, and go over training and everything that you're going to get along with this to make sure it's very, very successful. And if everything sounds good, then I would love to partner with you. How does that sound?